Welcome back to the Make Time for Success podcast. This is episode number 158. In this episode of the podcast, I have the great fortune of partnering with the fascinating and insightful sales advisor and trainer, Kandis James. Kandis shares with us her remarkable journey from starting her first business at the young age of 10 to overcoming several near-death experiences and personal struggles too. You'll hear how her past experiences have shaped her profound understanding of the importance of being authentic and living life to the fullest. She is so much fun because she knows how to be. Kandis and I also explore the concept of conformity, the impact of being true to oneself, and also the significance of embracing one's uniqueness. You're going to learn so much from this conversation. You're also going to learn a lot about sales from Kandis because sales is Kandis's area of expertise. After having 23 years of sales and marketing experience, Kandis helps experts, coaches, and course creators increase their sales call conversions so they can spend more time focusing on the part of their business that they love, helping people. So let's get ready to be inspired and to gain valuable insights from this amazing woman. Let's go listen to this episode together now. Hi, I'm Dr. Christine Lee, and I'm a psychologist and a procrastination coach. I've helped thousands of people move past procrastination and overwhelm so they could begin working to their potential. In this podcast, you're going to learn powerful strategies for getting your mind, body, and energy to work together so that you can focus on what's really important and accomplish the goals you want to achieve. When you start living within your full power, you're going to see how being productive can be easy and how you can create success on demand. Welcome to the Make Time for Success podcast. Hello, my friends and listeners. I am here today with the wonderful Kandis James, who happens to be one of my most treasured mentors and coaches. And she has agreed to come on the show, which delighted me absolutely, because I know you're going to find her to be fascinating and funny and so smart. And we're going to talk about many, many things. I'm sure of this. I'm also sure that we're going to eventually land on the topic of sales because that is Kandis's area of expertise. She's a sales advisor and trainer, but she's also got so many different life experiences that she uses with her beautiful work. And I can't wait for you to meet her. Welcome, Kandis, to the show.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
So let's get started and dig deep because I know you go deep right away. And just let us know more about you and some pieces of your background and wonderful history. Whatever you don't mind sharing here, we'd love to hear.
Yeah. I love these questions because it's also, I find something that's so interesting is like when you are asked to like describe yourself or your journey, right? There's like things that just stick out. And then you're like, man, do I talk about this too much? Or like, that sort of judgment in self sometimes comes out. But for me, growing up, I was like this type of person who was like, what can I try and what can I see what it feels like and what can I experience and and that got me into trouble sometimes, not going to lie. And sometimes it brought me into like really beautiful avenues. But I would say for like the last 23 years, I've been in some type of sales position, whether it was more internal sales and marketing or it was external sales, like to the client. I have been working in that for like over 23 years, which most people are like, wait, how old are you? Because you've been doing that for how long? But it was literally, I started when I was like 15 years old, like just working in sales and marketing. I've lived in, Thailand for 5.5 years. I lived in Italy for a couple years. I trained in the mountains of Thailand doing like mindfulness meditation, went to the University of Toronto to learn how to apply mindfulness meditation for regular life instead of just sitting on a mat somewhere in the mountains, which is great. But how do we bring that into our modern life? Wrote a book, did some business things. I've had my own business since I was like 10 when I first started teaching piano lessons. So from 10 until 40, I've had a million different businesses, cooking, image consulting, everything, you name it, been there, sold that, did that. And now here I am on your beautiful podcast. And my focus is really helping people to feel confident and easeful in selling their programs so that they can have the life that they really, truly desire.
That's beautiful. I had heard much of your story, but not the mountaintop part and probably not the 10-year-old part. Can you take us back to when you were 10? Let's go there and just let us know how you knew that you wanted to do a business. You wanted to kind of take yourself out of just your own individual circle and start to connect with other people in that way.
Yeah, I think it was like mainly for me. I was 10 and I was even just from like a very young age, I'd get like an allowance. And I think my allowance, to do chores around the house, I think I got like $2 a week or something like that. And so I would save all that money. I would hoard that money because I wanted to buy something amazing. Like I always had these big dreams for like what I could have, what I could achieve. And so I would always hoard all this money. So as I got older, I took piano lessons since I was 4 years old. And so when I was 10, I was good enough that I could at least teach like new 4-year-olds, right? Like people who were just learning. And so I started a business and my mom took me around. She was always so supportive, still is. She's my number one fan. And she helped me like put up flyers around the neighborhood and people would come over to our house and I would teach them piano lessons. And for me, it was less about like, I don't really think I had the concept of like, oh, I'm kind of like going to start a business or I'm going to whatever. It was just like, I need things. I want things. How do I get them myself? I don't want to rely on other people. I've always been like a fiercely independent, somewhat defiant human being. And it's just like, how can I do this? I don't want to rely on just my allowance that I was getting every week. I wanted bigger things. I wanted more things. And so for me, it was just like, how can I go out there and figure that out myself? So I started teaching piano.
Wonderful. So it was just a natural urge, a natural drive for you, which is terrific. I also know from hearing you on stage a couple of months ago that your family has been involved in business entrepreneurship. Is that correct? Am I correct in remembering it that way?
Yeah, my father has been in sales. So I just turned 40 like last month, and my father was in used car sales for 41 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I grew up around him. Like it was a commission only, like, yes, he worked for a dealership, but it was a commission only business. And it was like, you got to go out there and you got to get it. And I used to just value my time with him so much. He worked long hours, which is the one thing that I have flipped. I love sales. I love running a business. I love doing these things, but I'm not willing to work 65 hours a week and leave out my family, right? So not to say he left us out, but it was like, there was just a lot of long hours and he did it all for us. But, looking back, I think we all wished we had a little bit more time. So I think I learned 2 things from him: how to be an epic salesperson, and 2, how to kind of weave in a bit of a more of a work-life balance.
Okay, beautiful. On this show, I'm always inclined to ask people how they've overcome some sort of struggle within themselves, perhaps, to find the freedom and the success and the happiness that they have currently. Could you take us through 1 or 2 stories that you might have about just obstacles of your own mindset getting in your way, or life maybe getting in your way too?
Yeah. It's interesting when you say that, because like I've gone through a lot of really intense things in my life. And I think that makes me a much stronger person and able to overcome a lot more, makes me strive for more. I think also, like my first near-death experience, I was 3 years old. And I actually remember leaving my body and being able to like look down on myself, which is weird. People are like, you were 3. How do you remember? I'm like, I don't know. I don't think you forget something like that. Like it's just something that sticks with you. And then as I got older, there was just like a lot of stuff in life of like from 8 to 18, just being heavily bullied by people in school and being told I wasn't good enough and being told I was weird and being told that my voice was awful. Like there was not one thing that people wouldn't pick on. And my mother was just so beautiful. She helped me just be like, I don't care. She would always like, if I got made fun of for the shirt I was wearing, she'd encourage me to wear it again tomorrow. Like, do it again. Let's wear it again. Let's do it. Like, don't let these people dictate who you are. And I think going through that experience really made me just like, a lot more like, obviously it was a terrible experience. I don't wish it upon anybody, but at the same time, coming out of it, I think it just made me so much more able to think outside the box and to say, okay, you know what? I am definitely different because people comment on it every single day. So how do I just use that to my advantage instead of making that a weakness, right? So you have to start to shift like how you see yourself in that. So I think at a very early age, I was kind of forced to look at different ways to view myself and without getting caught in that, really downward spiral of like, I don't fit in and people don't like me and blah, blah, blah. It was like, cool, they don't like me, but why? Why am I different? What's exciting? Like I just tried to find different ways in which I could be valuable and not based on like the status quo. You know what I mean? And then later on, I was going through a lot of stuff. My family and I are very close. That was kind of on rocky ground. And so I just moved to Thailand, as one does. You just moved to Thailand. And and I stayed there for 5.5 years. And then I had I had a near-death experience. And then I had PTSD. And then there's just like a lot of stuff that I think you overcome in life. But sometimes I think the biggest lesson that I've learned out of all of it is that you're the only person that knows you. And sometimes what you need to do to better your life, whether it's your business, whether it's your personal life, whatever it is, like you are the only person that truly knows you on the inside, and stop trying to conform to what other people think you should do. And I think it's just really important that you learn to listen and learn to understand your true self and what your true self needs. And maybe the decisions you make, I know I've had this feedback from people, the decisions I've made in my life, like I'm going to move to Thailand, then I'm going to move to Italy, then I'm going to do this. People are like, what are you doing? And I'm like, feeding my soul. My soul needs something and I'm going to go feed it and I'm going to learn what I need to learn. And then when I came back, I was capable of so much more because I was the truest version of myself that I had ever been.
Wow. I'm so glad you have said the past few sentences because I knew we were going to get there somehow about the importance of knowing yourself and the conflict that can be everywhere all the time, even with your closest loved ones, about what to do, who to be, what's possible for you and what's right for you. And I definitely see you as someone who is firmly grounded in herself and has been through the journey. On social media, I think it was yesterday, I saw a post with 2 balls rolling downward on this thing. And one was going in a straight line and the other ball was on an up and down path. And it showed actually that the up and down ball traveled faster and farther than the ball that went straight down the hill, which you wouldn't think. I didn't actually think that, but it's a beautiful thing to see. And when we do have maybe near-death experiences and areas where people don't understand us and they really don't get us and they put pressure on us, we actually are forced to grow. Those triggers are the areas where we have to look at ourselves in a deeper way. And you're right. You're absolutely right. We're the ones who know us. It's just our work in the world, I guess. So thank you for getting us there. You're making me think of a bunch of things. But the near-death experiences, I'm sure my followers are curious about what might have happened and also how even going through things like that have shaped you.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. The first one, I was 3 years old and I was camping with my family. My cousins were there. Everybody was there. And I started just breathing really funny. And my parents, I used to have croup a lot when I was a kid. So my mom started treating me for croup, thinking that must be what was going on. And And it just wasn't getting better. And so she's like, okay, no, we got to leave this campground. So she took me to the hospital, and they got to the hospital and they're like, no, it's definitely croup. And then it wasn't. Clearly it was getting worse. So they had to send me to an emergency children's hospital. McMaster's Children saved my life twice now. But anyways, so we went there, and they were like, oh my gosh, it's called epiglottitis. And it's like this rare virus that just came from nowhere. Very contagious. So my whole family had to take all this medicine and everything to make sure they didn't get it, because they came out and they told my parents, your child has a 97 or 98% death rate for this disease. And so basically your child has a 3% chance of living. And I was 3. And obviously it set my parents into a whole whirlwind. But I remember in that moment, like I don't remember going there. I remember a brief moment in the ambulance. And then I remember it was like an out of body experience, which was really crazy, where I was looking down and I could see the doctors trying to fix me, and they had a very limited amount of time. So it was like this whole rush thing. And I just see myself laying there, which is wild. And then all of a sudden I was back in my body and out. Then I remember everything from the first perspective, seeing my family come and visit me. Right. But, I remember as I got older, I was like, wow, that was a really crazy experience. And being able to see that, I just always felt like I had something to give to the world, and that I wasn't supposed to go yet. There was some divine intervention there in you're not supposed to go, you have something. And also it was a reminder of life is short. And then I had a lot of family members pass away in the next 10, 15 years, people very close to me. And then, it wasn't until, a few years ago now, after 2020, I think it was around 2021, 2022, I was sitting at home watching this episode on Gaia. I don't know if you Gaia.com. I love that thing. Anyways, I was watching something about the heart and its thing with the universe. And I don't know what they said. I honestly have no idea. All of a sudden, it was I was right back to that out of body experience. And I don't think I'd ever fully felt it before. And it was this sense of calm, of peace, of knowing, of just everything is okay. And I was like, whoa, because, I skipped a part. I had PTSD after a second near-death experience, for 5 years prior to that. And so all of a sudden that PTSD went away. And then I had I almost died last year as well. But, I think the main thing that came from it is that death feels scary. It does. A lot of people are very scared of death, especially as you age or if you have ailments. I totally get that, because trust me, I've been there. And now I've been diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, which is hard to handle. But what it really taught me is that we're only guaranteed this one life on earth. Whether you believe in reincarnation, whether you believe in anything else, the only thing that we're guaranteed is this moment, this present moment, and maybe one after, but we're not even guaranteed that, right? Anything could happen at any time. And I've seen that 3 times in my life so far, that at any moment, it could all just be over. And it really just drives me to be the best person that I can be, to not live my life based on what I think other people think I should do, not based on who other people think I should be, and just to be the best human. I live my life with compassion and kindness every single day. I want to make the world a better place. I want to help people live a better life. I want to help them build their business. I want to help them succeed. I want to do all of this. And at the same time, just do crazy stuff. I was going to swear, and I don't know if I'm allowed on this podcast. So I was do crazy stuff on the weekends, go do that fun thing. Go rent that place and lay by the water and do all that stuff. Just do what you can while you're here, and stop worrying so much about how things are supposed to be. So many people live their lives trapped in what their parents or society or someone told you that you should be. And we got to let that go, because you're going to sit here for your 8,505 years on earth, and you're not going to be who you truly are. And so that to me is just sad to think that how many people get stuck in that. And yeah, I had to almost die 3 times to get through that and be bullied and be whatever. But you know what? like you said, like I loved that thing where you said like the hills, like I can see like, right, the ball, all of a sudden it speeds up and it goes flying over the hill and it does whatever. Like, it's, I think it's really cool to kind of look at it that way. And it's really important to just be you. I know it sounds really ridiculous and simple and cliched, but honestly, it's the truth,
Yes, I agree. I keep thinking about the word conformity, which you have used. And for our listeners who might be struggling in this area of really wanting to kind of act as themselves, be authentic, do the bold thing, break free of stereotypes and conformity and restrictions, but they're still right at that line, what would you say to them?
It sounds a bit dire, but at the same time, like, if you think about that tomorrow you're going to die. Tomorrow you go to the hospital, just like I did. Go to the hospital and you're laying in that bed and you're about to die. And you may or may not be saved. What's flashing through? It's 99% of what you didn't do, right? It's, I didn't do this and I didn't allow myself to act in this way and I wasn't able to be myself and show what I wanted and do all of these things. Like, when I almost died the second time, I was on like a boat which almost capsized in the Thai sea and we didn't have any life jackets and it was a crazy storm and my body went into shock. It was quite a situation. But later I started thinking and was like, man, I have done so much more than most people. I was like 29 years old and I was like, I have done more in my 29 years than a lot of people have done 50, 60, 70 years. And so I had to just get okay with, what, if I go, then I go. But there were still things that were nagging me that like, I gotta do them, And it's just like, I just feel like you're so scared of, and I get it, right? Like the ego is telling you to be safe. The ego's job is to keep you alive. The ego's job is to keep you within, your community, to be liked, to be valued, right? There was a book I read and I don't remember what it's called at the moment. I can tell you later if you want, but it was like about tribes, right? How humans are tribal creatures. And so so back in the day when we only had our tribe and we were hunters and gatherers, we needed the whole tribe to survive, right? So basically we would have to conform in order to not be kicked out of the tribe, because if we were kicked out of the tribe, we're just one person. Now we're probably not going to survive on our own, right? We have to. These days, you can buy your own apartment, you can go to the grocery store, you can do all those things. You can survive, but our brain is still formulated that way. And so we kind of look at it like, if I am myself, what if I get kicked out of my tribe? And this is a subconscious thought. What if I get kicked out of my tribe and now I'm on my own? And so what if you're on your own? Because that's oftentimes when you're going to find the most beauty in life, because you don't feel like you need to, you don't feel the fear of judgment. You don't feel whatever. And I'm also going to tell you that when you are yourself, that's usually when people love you the most.
And you can still keep your tribe.
Exactly. And you can also, like, you don't have to bring your entire weirdness into your tribe all the time. You can go be weird on the side.
And also from social media the other day, when you are behaving as your true self or your highest self or your most potent self, the people that you're really meant to be with will find you as well. So people who haven't been able to see you will now be able to see you. And so thank you, Kandis, for being our teacher today and for me in the past years as well. Let's talk about why you love sales, why you love teaching sales, because I know from my vantage point, my experience and the experience of so many others who are in online business, in regular business, that sales can be so daunting and tricky and sticky and icky and all the things. It can bring up all the feelings about conformity, about appropriateness, about who am I, right? Who am I to be doing this kind of thing? And then not showing up in a very true or powerful way. So please give us all that we need to know about this area and what you love about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Sales is such an interesting concept, right? It's like, and I think especially growing up with a used car salesman as my father, I mean, I think you can all imagine all of the stereotypes that most people think about used car salesmen. They're sleazy, they're slimy, they try to sell you things that you don't need. They try to sell, there's just all these things. And growing up, my dad was like the absolute opposite. He was just this beautiful man who was just trying to help people and make some money for his family, And he kind of put the two together. And it was just like, I just saw how invested he became in people's outcomes. And to me, that's what sales is. It's not about trying to get people into a program that they don't need or they don't want or that won't help them. And if you're doing that, I encourage you to not do that. Don't get people into something that's not for them. But I look at sales as an act of compassion, right? So it's compassion. Basically, we all know the word sympathy and we all know the word empathy, right? So sympathy is, oh, hey, I feel you. I understand what you're going through. Empathy is, oh yeah, like I actually feel it internally, like I totally understand. And compassion is I understand where you are and I'd like to offer some help. And that is what sales is. That's the only thing that it is. You need to just get to know the prospect, get to know your potential client, understand them to a true deep level of like where they are and what they're missing. And then if you can help them, then help them. And if that means that they buy your program, then great, let's do that, right? But when we come at sales from this attitude of compassion of I want to help other people get to where they want to be in life, then there's nothing weird or icky about sales. And, yes, it takes a little time to kind of learn that, but that's really ultimately where we are is how do we incorporate all of these different things? Like, this is kind of what I've done, all this like mindfulness on a mountain, learning energy practices, learning NLP, doing all of these different things. And it's like, how do we create that into a way that we can help people and we can show them that we can help people? Because normally if you're in a sales conversation, the other person is blocked by their own ego and you're getting blocked by your ego. And so that's when the sale doesn't happen. And so we need to you need to be able to get out of your ego and then get them out of their ego so that you can actually help them from a place of compassion.
Yes. My brain is telling me to focus on the salesperson's ego because I think as consumers, I think it's appropriate to be skeptical and to be mindful about what you're doing and certainly not saying yes to everything that comes your way. But as the salesperson, the way you're saying it is beautiful, first of all, that sales is an act of compassion. And then my mind goes to, yeah, but what about the salesperson's capacity to self-sabotage, to just, upend all the good work and the good experiences that they can offer and that gift that they can give the other person through the sale? What can you say about the self-sabotage piece and how to heal that habit? I do think it's a habit, and I do tend to think of it as an unconscious, subconscious habit. So it's even trickier to navigate because we aren't necessarily 100% in control of those feelings.
Mm-hmm. Great question. So one of the activities that I like to do with my clients is I will get them in like a group setting to come prepared with their favorite book. It just needs to be the title. I don't even need to have the book. I don't really care what the book is. I don't care in what realm it is. I usually say, you know the type of people that are here, so bring a book that you think this group would like. And that's all that I say. Then we come in and we have to start talking about this book and telling people why we like this book. And we do different exercises with this book. But when's the last time that somebody was like, oh man, I've really been longing for like a really good fish restaurant. I just want lots of really good fish. Have you been to one? And are you like, oh, should I tell them? I don't know. Should I tell them about this fish restaurant? Like, oh, does it feel like I'm selling the fish restaurant? Do they think that I'm going to be overbearing about the fish restaurant? Like, I don't know. Like, I went to a really good one last week, but I don't know if I should tell them about it.
Oh, you have me cracking up. I didn't know where you were going with the fish part. That is fantastic. That is fantastic. So thank you for that in vivo piece of training. Yeah. Why are we holding ourselves back from sharing good things?
Yeah. You're going to tell people about the fish restaurant. You are. If you went to a fish restaurant recently, you're going to be like, I know of a great fish restaurant. The problem then becomes when we have to say that about ourselves, right? I have a good program that can help you. So now we're not probably talking about a fish restaurant. If you have a good fish restaurant, tell people about it. But most people that we're talking to don't own a fish restaurant. And, we start to get a little bit more awkward around offering our services, what we can do. And so how do you get as comfortable talking about your services as you do recommending a great restaurant or recommending a great book? And that's really the work that I do, like with my clients. It's like, how do we get just as comfortable saying, oh yeah, I know a great coffee shop. Yeah, I know a great fish restaurant. Yeah, I know a great book. How do you get that comfortable being like, yeah, I can help you?
Beautiful. And I imagine that that's lots of different layers and levels of work with your clients and with these people who are waiting to do the good work, right? It is the bridge, right? We can be as expert, as enthusiastic and passionate as can be. And if we don't have that bridge, really, there's something really big missing. There's really, right? Lots of things can go missing if you don't have that bridge. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'm so happy to have watched your journey in recent months as you've really just, dug into this passion of yours and your expertise. So thank you. And I can't wait to see where all of this takes you and your clients.
Thank you.
Can you share with us how our listeners can stay in touch with you and work with you too, if they're interested in doing that, which I'm sure many of them are?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. So there is, obviously I'm on the Instagrams at kandisjames.kj. And also I actually just put out a private podcast. So it's all about my 3-step formula into getting more sales today, which really kind of encompasses a lot of what we talked about today about the compassion, but how to actually interact that. And that's at kandisjames.com/sales podcast.
Beautiful. I will have all of that, of course, in the show notes. And I urge everyone who has been inspired by Kandis today, who has enjoyed Kandis's stories and her style and her beautiful way of speaking and teaching, to really stay connected with her. She's the real deal and such a delight to know. And I'm also just reflecting throughout our conversation today about the clarity of your voice. And I really do feel like that is part of life, right? Of knowing how to just open up things like your voice, all the tools that we have within ourselves. It's a process. It's practice. We aren't born this way. Kandis had to go through so many different things to be the clear teacher and being that she is. So if you're just starting, if you're in the middle of the path, if you're just at that brink of breaking through to feeling like your full, powerful self, let's go. Let's keep moving forward. We're your tribe. We're your supporters. We're rooting for you. So thank you, Kandis, for spending the time with us today and for being you.
Thank you, Christine. I'm just so honestly excited to be here on this podcast. I know we've known each other for years now.
Yes.
Years. It's wild. Like sometimes I look back and I'm like, wow, it's been so long. It's really, truly an honor to be here today, to be part of your podcast, to be part of your life. And it's just so much fun. And, I think that's one of the biggest things is we often look at other people, like where they are, what they're doing, and you see people in a certain light. And you need to understand that a lot of these people are going through so many things in the back end. They've gone through so much. They've did so many things. They've done that was terrible grammar, but that's okay. They've done all these things in their lives and things happened. And I think we have, especially with social media, I know you mentioned a couple times, say like, I saw social media this or that. And like, those were great quotes and great ideas. And I think we also need to remember that there's a lot of people out there on social media that are, showing you the best version of their life. And that's what we do on social media. And I think it's also important to know and remember that, there's so much that goes into being the best version of yourself, having your best business, having your best family, having your best everything, right? There's so much that goes on behind the scenes. And I think it's just really important to remember that everybody's on a very special journey and yours will happen when it's happening. And yes, there are things we can do to grow and build and do all of these things. But I just, stuff goes on. And let's form a plan and figure out where we want to be. And then let's just get there, no matter what happens. I could have died almost 3 times and I'm still like, I know where I'm going. So how do we get clarity on that and move forward in that and really just start to like sit into ourselves? I think that's the biggest message I have is like, how can you be the most you that you can be and just allow that to take place?
Beautiful words. Beautiful words. Thank you so much, Kandis. Again, thank you, dear listeners, for listening to us and growing together with us. And I will see you next week when the next episode drops. Thanks so much for listening to the Make Time for Success podcast. Bye. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Make Time for Success podcast. If you enjoyed what you've heard, you can subscribe to make sure you get notified of upcoming episodes. You can also visit our website, maketimeforsuccesspodcast.com, for past episodes, show notes, and all the resources we mention on the show. Feel free to connect with me over on Instagram too. You can find me there under the name Procrastination Coach. Send me a DM and let me know what your thoughts are about the episodes you've been listening to. And let me know any topics that you might like me to talk about on the show. I'd love to hear all about how you're making time for success. Talk to you soon.